Welcome back to HR with Love. I'm Rahana Latif, and as we approach the end of 2025, I wanted to bring you a conversation that gets to the heart of leadership itself. What drives performance? People or the numbers that measure them? My guest today is Hugh Massie, an executive chairman and founder of DNA Behavior International and a global voice on behavioral leadership. Hugh, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's great to be with you, Rihanna. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
So, Hugh, how would you define behavioral leadership and how is it different from traditional leadership development?
I think the traditional leadership development is about what a leader needs to do or should be doing from a skills, competencies type perspective. And what behavioral leadership is doing is going to the next step of uh, looking at who the leader actually is as a person from their core behavioral traits and what do they need to do to fulfill on those competencies. So we could talk about, maybe a leadership competency is to be adaptable, and that, the one of the number one success requirements in today's world, particularly with all the chaos out there, AI, the future is now type concepts out there. And in fact, there's research that's just come out from Russell Reynolds saying that 74% of leaders believe their companies have got to transform now or they won't exist. Now, we can talk about that from a leadership perspective, but how does that show up in or play itself out for each individual leader? Because some leaders are going to be wired differently to handle innovation in a different way. Not every person is adaptable and completely flexible and can be on one path today and then on a new path in 6 months' time. But that's what the world is going to require. And so I think that the behavioral leadership methodology is addressing this from the context of the human being, the leader themselves, not so much the principle or what the skill needs to be. And at the end of the day, to successfully master this, the leader's then going to have to start with themselves and then look at who else is on the team to bring that adaptability in.
But that also takes a lot of self-reflection as well, doesn't it? And really looking at your behaviors and what makes a great leader.
I think it takes a lot of self-reflection, standing back from who you are. It takes some personal honesty about the products and services that your company delivers, even though you might have been the designer of it. I know that in our business, where the business was built and predicated on people having to complete a psychometric profile and having to answer a very structured questionnaire. And I would get people who would ask me, well, Hugh, can we change the questionnaire a little bit? Non-negotiable. I was very inflexible about that. But one day I did decide that, okay, the world's wanting everything faster and quicker. We could remove certain questions and still get a very high psychometric accuracy, because that's part of it. Is what we're delivering is the promise is a reliable result. You can't just change how you get to that reliable result, but we figured out a way to do it. So that was Hugh starting to be adaptable and flexible because I realized I had to do it. And then the next part came, well, we managed to work out a way to have our questionnaire answered by AI. Well, now the human being doesn't have to do it. And that completely changes the business model. But that's the world that we've got to be in today to stay relevant. And I think that's me doing reflection, working with my team, but not just being reactionary to circumstances. I think you used the word, Rihanna, there is the reflection. I think this is something that's really important. But also I had to know that I had the right people on my team to be able to do all of those things. So I had to accept the idea, own it, but also then go and find the people that could help make that happen. Um, I think that's a concrete example of this, of the difference.
Some might say understanding behavior is a nice to have and not essential, especially in fast-moving startups. What would you say to founders who think understanding people slows down execution?
I myself am a founder that doesn't like friction, and I want to remove every barrier to my success so I can get to the goal as quickly as possible. The reality is even in today's tech-driven world, people are still important, and the failure to understand people is the biggest friction that's in your business. Because if you don't understand people, then you're going to, you're going to have conflicts. You're going to have the wrong people doing the wrong tasks. So you're not going to have the right people in the right seats on the bus doing the right things. And so taking the time to understand people, starting with yourself as a leader, is the most important thing that you can do. And it does, to remove it removes friction. And there's a lot of studies out there that would support my point. And it all circles back to self-awareness of the leader, and that I think the message is as a leader and founder of a business, you've got to do more work on yourself than you actually have to do on the business. And I think that's the message. But if you get it right, then the business can really can grow. And adaptability is perhaps the biggest competency, from a leadership perspective for a founder to have, because you've got to adjust your product, you've got to get your ego out of the way, you've got to be able to change. I think also being personally grounded is really important, so you don't just have emotional reactions to situations and make knee-jerk decisions. And you've got to be able to work through other people. If you're going to scale a business, you've got to be able to build processes and systems, but you've got to be able to work through other people. So everything hinges on people. And the extra one that I would add into all of this is trust. If as a leader, you've got to be able to trust your team to get things done, which means you've got to be able to trust yourself. But when the trust is there, the innovation, according to Stephen Covey, goes up by 11 times.
Wow.
And the energy in the business will be 106%. So if you just take all the statistics, and there's plenty of more research stats that I could reel off, leads you to that understanding yourself as a leader is the most important thing you can do, and then having a pretty comprehensive approach to dealing with people.
So, what metrics do you think companies can use to measure leadership behavior to actually tell if a leader is growing?
The first thing would be that the leader could go through an assessment process. So one, a DNA behavior, the way we handle this is the leader would complete their own DNA natural behavioral discovery so that we now know what their inherent, enduring, hardwired behavioral traits are. Everybody comes with a set of strengths and struggles. And so to understand that as a baseline. The next part would be to have them go through some kind of 360 review process where their peers, so it could be people that are direct report, subordinates, peers, even shareholders and clients or customers, complete on them to look at a range of metrics on, okay, are you able to get results while managing relationships? That's the big one. And then, what is your level of emotional intelligence? How are you handling employees and communicating? What's your level of personal trust and confidence and the wisdom in decision making? I think that if you're growing in, what we've got 80 metrics there that we look at, if you're growing in all of those, then it probably should be being reflected in the company performance. We can also deploy what we call an organizational energy assessment. Again, that looks at how the company is performing and how employees feel the company is performing, but also how key stakeholders feel the company is performing. That's going to tell you something about the leader too, or the founder, the top leadership level, because they're the driver of the culture. And if you want to go further, you can do, look at how the employees are rating the company, from an employee satisfaction or engagement perspective, and then net promoter scores would be another indicator, going back to the employees Glassdoor type ratings. So I think there's a whole lot of indicators that would tell you whether the leader is doing a good job or not.
What's one small behavior change a leader can do today that produces surprisingly big improvements in team performance?
It all comes back to trust. Now, how does the leader get that trust going, to build on it? It could be something, I believe it's something as simple as the leader saying to each of his team members, I believe in you. I did my best work in my first career at Arthur Andersen when I knew I had a leader that believed in me. And he kept on giving me opportunities. And I did my bit. And then, once I left that career and became an entrepreneur, as I've grown, each time I've sort of made a leap in the business, or my participation in other community activities around the business that have helped the business, it's always been because there was someone there who actually believed in me. Even though they didn't quite use those words, I know they did, and they trusted me to do it. And I think that, but all of us now can actually, as leaders, can actually just say to the key people around us, I believe in you, and then go and let them do their magic.
Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
The final thought would be, if you're a founder of the business, or any person in stepping up into leadership, look at your own trust levels in yourself, the belief in yourself, but also have a big dream. Start small and finish big.
Hugh, thank you for reminding us that love in leadership isn't soft, it's smart. Lots of love from London. Bye for now.